and I'm Anurag, right? I'm a co-convener of Bookon, and I'm here to deliver a workshop to you guys on how to make a big plan, right? But I think this workshop is more than just on how to make a big plan, right? So let's start off with understanding why we are here today. Okay? So what do you guys think are the reasons as to why we are here today? Guys.
We wanted to know how to present our ideas in what ways we can write the idea and give it to you.
How we present an idea, right?
Yeah.
Then, got more, right?
I want to make sure people get it, what you're actually trying to do.
Alright. I want to make sure people get it. Then,
How to execute it in a proper manner.
execution. Alright.
How to know that? To know what is VCs and the people who come, what they look for.
Alright, so let's say that you want to understand the funding.
Yeah.
Okay? So good. Most of these things
One
are.
more thing, what will happen if we get selected for that?
Alright, we'll cover that as well. So basically, much of all these points are going to get covered in the workshop today, right? So I'll actually like to show you a video, right? I'm actually happy with most of the answers that you guys gave here, but this workshop is about much more than just writing a big plan, right? It's basically the purpose for which you guys are here is the purpose that differentiates you from the 5,000 other students that are there in college, knew about the workshop, and who prefer to go back home at say 5 o'clock, right? There's a fundamental difference between you guys sitting right here and the people who are actually not here. So I'd like to show this to you guys. Already on.
How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You ready to buy a computer from me? All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. And Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. Here's the best part. None of what I'm telling you is my opinion. It's all grounded in the tenets of biology, not psychology, biology. If you look at a cross-section of the human brain, looking from the top down, what you see is the human brain is actually broken into three major components that correlate perfectly with the golden circle. Our newest brain, our Homo sapien brain, our neocortex, corresponds with the what level. The neocortex is responsible for all of our rational and analytical thought and language. The middle two sections make up our limbic brains, and our limbic brains are responsible for all of our feelings, like trust and loyalty. It's also responsible for all human behavior, all decision-making, and it has no capacity for language. In other words, when we communicate from the outside in, yes, people can understand vast amounts of complicated information like features and benefits and facts and figures. It just doesn't drive behavior. When we communicate from the inside out, we're talking directly to the part of the brain that controls behavior, and then we allow people to rationalize it with the tangible things we say and do. This is where gut decisions come from. Sometimes you can give somebody all the facts and your figures, and they say, I know what all the facts and details say, but it just doesn't feel right. Why would we use that verb? It doesn't feel right, because the part of the brain that controls decision-making doesn't control language. And the best we can muster up is, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. Or sometimes you say you're leading with your heart, or you're leading with your soul. Well, I hate to break it to you, those aren't other body parts controlling your behavior. It's all happening here in your limbic brain, the part of the brain that controls decision-making and not language. But if you don't know why you do what you do, and people respond to why you do what you do, then how will you ever get people to vote for you or buy something from you, or more importantly, be loyal and want to be a part of what it is that you do? Again, the goal is not just to sell people who need what you have. The goal is to sell to people who believe what you believe. The goal is not just to hire people who need a job. It's to hire people who believe what you believe. I always say that, there's if you hire people just because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, they work for you with blood and sweat and tears. And nowhere else is there a better example of this than with the Wright brothers. Most people don't know about Samuel Pierpont Langley. And back in the early 20th century, the pursuit of powered man flight was like the .com of the day. Everybody was trying it. And Samuel Pierpont Langley had what we assume to be the recipe for success. I mean, even now, you ask people, why did your product or why did your company fail? And people always give you the same permutation of the same three things. Undercapitalized, the wrong people, bad market conditions. It's always the same three things. So let's explore that. Samuel Pierpont Langley was given $50,000 by the War Department to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He held a seat at Harvard and worked at the Smithsonian and was extremely well connected. He knew all the big minds of the day. He hired the best minds money could find, and the market conditions were fantastic. The New York Times followed him around everywhere, and everyone was rooting for Langley. And how come we've never heard of Samuel Pierpont Langley? A few hundred miles away in Dayton, Ohio, Orville and Wilbur Wright. They had none of what we consider to be the recipe for success. They had no money. They paid for their dream with the proceeds from their bicycle shop. Not a single person on the Wright brothers' team had a college education, not even Orville or Wilbur. And the New York Times followed them around nowhere. The difference was Orville and Wilbur were driven by a cause, by a purpose, by a belief. They believed that if they could figure out this flying machine, it'll change the course of the world. Samuel Pierpont Langley was different. He wanted to be rich, and he wanted to be famous. He was in pursuit of the result. He was in pursuit of the riches. And lo and behold, look what happened. The people who believed in the Wright brothers' dream worked with them with blood and sweat and tears. The others just worked for the paycheck. And they tell stories of how every time the Wright brothers went out, they would have to take 5 sets of parts, because that's how many times they would crash before they came in for supper. And eventually, on December 17th, 1903, the Wright brothers took flight. And no one was there to even experience it. We found out about it a few days later. And further proof that Langley was motivated by the wrong thing, the day the Wright brothers took flight, he quit. He could have said, "That's an amazing discovery, guys. Now we'll improve upon your technology." But he didn't. He wasn't first. He didn't get rich. He didn't get famous. So he quit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And if you talk about what you believe, you will attract those who believe what you believe. Well, why is it important to attract those who believe what you believe? Something called the law of diffusion of innovation. And if you don't know the law, you definitely know the terminology. The first 2.5% of our population are our innovators. The next 13.5% of our population are our early adopters. The next 34% are your early majority, your late majority, and your laggards. The only reason these people buy touch-tone phones is because you can't buy rotary phones anymore. We all sit at various places at various times on the scale, but what the law of diffusion of innovation tells us is that if you want mass market success or mass market acceptance of an idea, you cannot have it until you achieve this tipping point between 15 and 18% market penetration, and then the system tips. And I love asking businesses, what's your conversion on new business? And they love to tell you, oh, it's about 10%, proudly. Well, you can trip over 10% of the customers. We all have about 10% who just get it. That's how we describe them, right? That's like that gut feeling, oh, they just get it. The problem is, how do you find the ones that just get it before you're doing business with them versus the ones who don't get it? So it's this here, this little gap, that you have to close, as Geoffrey Moore calls it, crossing the chasm. Because you see, the early majority will not try something until someone else has tried it first. And these guys, the innovators and the early adopters, they're comfortable making those gut decisions. They're more comfortable making those intuitive decisions that are driven by what they believe about the world, and not just what product is available. These are the people who stood online for 6 hours to buy an iPhone when they first came out, when you could have just walked into the store the next week and bought one off the shelf. These are the people who spent $40,000 on flat screen TVs when they first came out, even though the technology was substandard. And by the way, they didn't do it because the technology was so great. They did it for themselves. It's because they wanted to be first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. In fact, people will do the things that prove what they believe. The reason that person bought the iPhone in the first 6 hours, or stood in line for 6 hours, was because of what they believed about the world and how they wanted everybody to see them. They were first. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So let me give you a famous example, a famous failure and a famous success of the law of diffusion of innovation. First, the famous failure. It's a commercial example. As we said before a second ago, the recipe for success is money and the right people and the right marketing conditions, right? You should have success then. Look at TiVo. From the time TiVo came out about 8 or 9 years ago to this current day, they are the single highest quality product on the market. Hands down, there is no dispute. They were extremely well funded. Market conditions were fantastic. I mean, we use TiVo as a verb. I TiVo stuff on my piece of junk Time Warner DVR all the time. But TiVo is a commercial failure. They've never made money. And when they went IPO, their stock was at about $30 or $40 and then plummeted, and it's never traded above 10. In fact, I don't think it's even traded above 6, except for a couple of little spikes. Because you see, when TiVo launched their product, they told us all what they had. They said, we have a product that pauses live TV, skips commercials, rewinds live TV, and memorizes your viewing habits without you even asking. And the cynical majority said, we don't believe you, we don't need it, we don't like it, you're scaring us. What if they had said, if you're the kind of person who likes to have total control over every aspect of your life, boy, do we have a product for you. It pauses live TV, skips commercials, memorizes your viewing habits, etc., etc. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it, and what you do simply serves as the proof of what you believe. Now let me
motivation, right? And a purpose. You guys need to know why you need to write it, right? So these are the 10 commandments, right? Something similar to Moses' 10 commandments. So a few things that writing a B plan helps you out with is that you stay on strategy. Okay? So staying on strategy is managing team members and tracking results will be easy. You can better plan and manage cash flow. Course corrections will help your business from flopping. Now, even if I actually took some time to explain each of these points, and I think I can do a very good job at that, you guys won't understand the weightage of each of these points unless and until you actually tested how deep the water is by putting your foot in the water, right? So you guys need to actually, I realized the importance of these points after I started my startup, right? So when I started up, I had no B plan, and trust me, it has hampered my growth in many ways. So these are the major components of a B plan, right? The ones listed here. Let's start off with general company description, right? So this is spelling error, it's mission, never mind. So there's something called mission statement, a goal statement, and objective, right? So does anyone have an idea of that you guys want to implement? Right? Come on, you guys need to be interactive.
Okay, I thought about a gaming cafe in the college.
A gaming cafe in college, right? Okay. Yeah, go ahead. So, what does this gaming cafe do?
Well, it allows people to spend their time mainly to the hostel lives.
Right.
They can game on the gaming devices like PS4s and the other things, and they can get their own laptop or devices and can play multiplayer.
Alright. So let's write the mission statement for your business, right? After that, we'll write the goal statement, and then we'll write the objective statement.
Yeah.
Right? So a mission statement is nothing but a broad perspective, right, of what your business is supposed to do, what your business, or what milestones your business should reach, right? So it's one of those big, hairy, audacious statements, right? So suppose he wants to make a gaming cafe, right? So game room. I think they're into gaming, right? So your mission statement would be something like, I want to be 10 times greater than game room. Right? That is one of the mission statements. So, say for another business that's into, is there any other idea? Any other idea?
I have the fascination for branded suits and tuxedos, so I can't really afford it. So I thought of a business plan where we can just rent it to people for one night and take like 5% or 4% of the original cost.
So write mission statement.
Mission statement, you can wear it even if you can't afford it.
Yeah, that's one way to put this, right? Right. So another way to put this is that every woman gets what she wants in a man. Anything like that, right? So that's your mission statement, and then you have goal statements. These are like steps: step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, as to how you're going to reach your mission statement, right? So those are your goals, and then you have your objectives. Your objectives are your step-by-step things, right? So if you want to make the world's best Maggie, right? So this is what we are talking about. You want to make the world's best Maggie. That's your mission statement, right? Your goal statement, however, would be something like the Maggie shouldn't be too overcooked, right? So, and then maybe the Maggie shouldn't be undercooked. Those are your goal statements. And your objectives here would be something like, say, the water. The boiling point should not, I mean, when you, let's say you heat the water only for 2 minutes, right? Not more. You add only 3/4 the cup of masala or something like that. Those are your objectives, right? So, another thing, I just missed this out. Okay, so let's try and understand why AP plans are this important. Okay, so, do you guys believe in love at first sight? Oh, most of you do. I think that's the first year effect. Alright? So, okay, how many of you do? Shocking, you still believe in it. What about you? Hasn't worked out, right? A business is something similar, right? So what happens is, you fall in love with an idea, right? And then you romance with that idea for a while, right? You, let's say, make the idea pregnant, right? And you get an output that is a startup, okay? And what do you call such an output that is not planned? Exactly. Unwanted or let's not get there, right? So a B plan is something similar, right? Basically, it's formalizing your business. So basically, you're marrying your idea, and then if you come up with a startup, well, I'm sure that startup will have a much better, brighter future than the unwanted child, right? So when you talk about general company description, right, you guys give your mission, goal, and objectives, right? As vague as these three things might sound, trust me, these are lifesavers. They give you direction, right? So, I'll tell you a very recent incident from my own startup, right? In my mission statement, I've written to deliver quality textbooks, right? The word quality was there in my mission statement. And after a while, right, I started giving substandard qualities of Xerox in books. Not because I intended to perform some cost saving, but because ensuring that quality was there in the process was too cumbersome, right? And eventually I got tired and whatever quality I did, I just give it down and down to students. So I lost a lot of customers because of that, right? And trust me, if it weren't for the mission statement, I was just going through my big plan the other day and I saw the word quality, right? And I realized that what I was doing was wrong. And I think that's saved my company today. Because if I did not have a mission statement, I don't think Bookon would have survived, right? Talk about the industry, right? So if you're into the gaming industry, talk about the gaming industry. Talk about what the patterns of growth in the industry are. Is it a growing industry? What type of industry it is, right? Talk about the team, right? So the expertise of your team really counts, right? So if you have to be a gamer if you have such an idea, right? So maybe if you were to tell in your B plan that you've participated in 10 different competitions, nationwide competitions, you've organized several gaming fests, right? You put in all these details, right, of your team and of yourself, it makes a lot of difference, don't you think? Right? It does. Now he says he wants to rent out suits, right? So maybe let's say if he wants to do it online, right? So a little background of having created a website, having a little knowledge of e-commerce, right, would help. So you need to talk about your team. Talk about your product, very briefly. Alright, in the general company description, talk about your strengths. This is actually a place where you can put cool photos of yourself with goggles, right? And really big fat words that describe things that you're not, but never mind. Let's talk about product and services, right? You need to talk about your design. Now, this is a really very important phase. At least I find it one of the most important things in a big plan. So if you have a product, you need to put in the designs of the product, right? So if it's a product, say this chalk piece, so I need to mention the dimensions of these chalk piece, CAD drawings, any kind of technical specifications, everything needs to come in here, right? Photos, everything. Talk about the benefits, right? You need to talk about the features. Can anyone tell me the difference between a benefit and a feature? Okay, and what's the feature?
Features are the advantages.
Okay.
What is the
What is the
Okay. Let's say I sell houses, right? Now what are the benefits of having a house? Shelter. Right? What is the feature of a house?
To provide sunlight,
To provide
protection.
No. A feature of a house could be something like the aesthetics, right? It looks really good. It's made of the strongest cement in the world, right? So it'll stay longer than what other houses do. These are features. Benefits are what you get when you buy the product. I mean, like when you make a product, you get benefits directly. Features are built into the product, right? So your benefit would be something like, let's say, like you guys said, security, right? Shelter. Those are benefits of buying a house. The features of the house, however, are something like what I told you. Market research and why it's important, right? So, perform a very simple exercise, right? Why don't you get up? Okay? And I need you to tell me what kind of food that girl likes. Okay? What's her favorite cuisine? Okay? You can take all your educated assumptions. I think one of the few good questions to ask is, what's your native? What's your mother's native? Right? Where have you stayed throughout the thing? So maybe you could narrow down on your choices as to what her favorite cuisine is. So why don't you do this activity?
Where's your father from?
Let's be clear.
Which state?
Okay, I think you want to ask more questions?
Do you like China?
Oh. You do not get to ask that. You need to predict, right? Based on what little you know.
Maybe proper South Indian.
Is your favorite cuisine South Indian food? No. I mean, you made an educated guess. You asked all the right questions, right? Which should have had, I mean, logically, that should have made sense. And she should have loved South Indian food. But what's your favorite cuisine? Chinese. So this is what happens when you do not research your market, right? You may say that every guy in the hostel is mad about gaming, right? But every guy in the hostel might not be mad about gaming. Guys in the hostel might be mad about maybe different types of games. You need to research your market before you start business. Otherwise, this happens. Right? You guys think you know it, but trust me, you don't, and you guys will fail. So, how exactly do you do a market research? There are two ways to do your market research. There is a primary way and a secondary way. Right? So, the secondary method states that you can use a lot of, let's say that there are a lot of resources online, right, and published. There are trade journals, magazines, newspapers, right, that give you an exact figure of your market, right? Have you heard of census, right? India, I mean, the census report comes out. So suppose you have a product that's meant for, say, the above poverty line and below, you have a figure, say 20 lakhs to 80 lakhs. You need to know who earns in this bracket, right? That data is already there in the secondary report. So such reports are generated by a lot of organizations here that actually help you do your market research. The primary way of doing your market research is to understand consumer behavior, right? Now consumer behavior, I mean, it's nothing but surveying. So he wants to open a Chinese restaurant, right, in R.R. Nagar. He goes to every house in R.R. Nagar, right, and finds out that they like Chinese. As simple as that. So market research is important. If you undermine market research, your startup is bound to fail. Right? So when you're researching market, you research a couple of things, right? To start off with, economics. Okay? So one of the first questions you'd answer is, what is the total size of your market? Right? So if you want to open a gaming thing here, what is the size of your market?
Size and
What's your market size for a gaming cafe that's open within college? How many customers? I think 5,000. There are 5,000 students.
yeah, accommodating them is something which is tough.
But combination here is what percentage share of the market will you have, right? Then there's something like what's the current demand in the market. Okay? So let's say that, okay, then let's talk about trends in the target market, right? What are the growth trends? What are trends in consumer preferences? Trends in product development, right? So maybe a trend in product development would be something like, let's just look at Counter-Strike. Okay? People have been playing Counter-Strike since 2005, right? Nothing's changed, right? But if you take a game like Ragnarok, it's an MMORPG. So people play that for a year or two, and then they get bored and they go to the next game, right? So if you were to play FIFA, if you were to run FIFA 08 over here, I think it wouldn't work. FIFA 13 comes out, people want to play FIFA 13. So that is analyzing the trend in product development, right? So the product you're actually giving to people, there's a trend in that. Every 1 year, a new game comes out. Okay? So every 1 year, you need to understand what happens, right? What is the growth potential and opportunity for a business of your size? How much can you grow? Like I said, you want to start this thing, right? So you say, I have 10 computers today, okay? And you need to understand that your growth potential would be, say, 1,000, 2,000 students, right? So your potential would be to having 2,000 computers. You need to understand that. What barriers to entry do you have in entering this market? What barriers do you have? Tell me. High capital. That's the first thing, right? Then I don't think you'll have high marketing costs. Consumer acceptance and brand recognition would again not be an issue. Training and skills, unique technology and patents, unions, shipping costs, tariff barriers. I think most of these things wouldn't be there, but high capital cost, like you stated, is the thing there. In your case, I think technology, consumer acceptance would be a real thing, right? People usually, अरे तुम्हें को सूट दिया मैं तेरा सूट फाड़ के देखो कल वापस दे दिया तो क्या करेगा, right? So how will you overcome such barriers, right? So B-Plan is nothing about just answering these questions in yes or no, and if at all it's a no or a yes, how do you make sense to yourself? Customer profiling, right? It's really very important. I think you guys do it with almost everyone you meet. You know which parent to go to ask money for, right? You guys know exactly which teacher to go to ask for more marks, right? You guys know everything. In fact, every person you actually meet, you profile him in your head, right? And you know exactly what kind of person that is and how to deal with him. Why should you do it for your target customers? It's important. It's equally important, right? So try to profile your customers. Try to talk about the age, gender, location, income level, social class, and occupation, their education. It all makes a difference, right? But this is a B2C business, a business to a customer, right? Then there are some certain B2B businesses, right? If a business is doing business with another business, it's actually very simple. You have retailers, right? So you have retail shops and you have wholesale shops. Wholesale shops sell to retail shops. That's nothing but a business to business, right? So when you're doing a business to business, would you look at the age? Would you look at the sex of the person?
No.
Would you look at anything else? What would you look at? You look at what industry it is. What's the size of this firm, right? What is the quality, the technology, and the price preferences of that business, right? So you need to understand who your customer is and accordingly do this, okay? So competitive analysis, right? It's the single most powerful tool that is there for you guys to actually, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Find out what your competitors are doing, right? And then find out how you can beat them to it. So that's and you. Okay. Right? So, Anurag. And what's your name? Vinay. Right? So, I've listed 4 subjects here: physics, math, chemistry, electronics. Alright? These are factors. Right? Now, there's Anurag and there's Vinay. Okay? So, let's try and understand. Are you good at physics?
Yeah, sir.
You're good at physics. Are you good at math?
No.
Not good at math. Are you good at chemistry?
Yes.
Good at chemistry? Are you good at electronics?
Somewhat yes. Not very confident.
Not very confident. Okay, let's write 0 here. Alright? What about you?
Physics is good.
Good?
Maths.
Okay.
Chemistry is okay.
Okay.
Chemistry is good.
Okay.
Electronics is not good.
Right? So both of these guys are competing to get rank 1 in class. Alright? And you know his strengths, you know his strengths, you know his weaknesses, you know his weaknesses. So the trick here is to actually develop your weaknesses and beat him in his strengths. Right? And you need to attach weightages to each subject. Right? Physics is a 5-credit subject. Math and electronics are 4-credit subjects, right? Physics and chemistry are 5-credit subjects. So you need to make yourself strong in this first. You get the point, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. So when you're actually driving for a B plan, right? I think quality, cost, right? Say distribution, a lot of other business terms that are important for that business, right? Need to come in here. Okay? And in the credits place, you'll actually write the weightage of each business, right? Each factor. How important is that factor for your business? Okay? Then you analyze how your competitors are doing it, what you're doing, and you guys know where to improve. Okay, please sit down. Promotion, right? So promotion is really important to your business, right? And these are the following questions that you need to answer to yourself when you talk about promotion. How will you get the word out to your customers, right? Advertising. What media, why, how often, why this mix and not some other, right? So you want to do, say, 40% of your marketing on Facebook, right? Maybe 10% on ads, advertisements, maybe another 30% in providing hand research, right? So you use a mix of advertising channels, right? So you need to justify for yourself why this mix and why nothing else, right? Have you identified low-cost methods to get the most of your promotional budget? Will you use methods other than paid advertising, such as trade shows, catalogs, dealer incentives, word of mouth, right? And network of friends and professionals? What image do you want to project? How do you want your customers to see you? I think this is a really important question. And in the 10 video that I showed you guys, right, the why component, I think that comes in over here, right? So in addition to advertising, what plans do you have for graphic image support? Meaning, you need to have logos, you need to have cards, letters, brochures, signage, you need to design, right? I think in the game thing, you want a dark environment, but I don't think that comes in here. Should you have a system to identify repeat customers and then systematically contact them? Follow-up is really important, right? So once you have a customer base, try to save it, yeah, so that you can get back. Promotional budget. How much money are you guys willing to start off as for your promotional budget? Now when I started I don't want to put any money into it, right? So I think I spent only 200 bucks to print, say, 12 posters, right? One in each department. And what I tried to do is that I went to each classroom, right? And did classroom publicity. I went publicized, told them about my idea. So I was able to reach 100% of the students, right? I went to every class, so I think I easily covered 4,000 students, right? For just 200 bucks. Yeah. Location, right? So location is very important.
Okay, how do you plan your promotions? How do you plan the budget?
How do you plan out the budget? What idea do you have? एक roughly बता दो, I can work on
Technical
that.
idea like a mouse brace thing.
Mouse brace.
Like you can do from gestures you can change the slides next page.
Oh, Gulden, I have that one, bro. It's a great idea.
It's not from image sensing, it's from something else.
It's something else. What are you going to do with it?
Like it's made of something else, not that image sensing thing which you get in PlayStations.
No, what I wanted to do was. What I wanted to do was in Samsung Galaxy में जो आता है ना, I wanted to
That
do
is
that.
they sense the image.
Yeah, you don't want to do
That
that.
is using sensors like you can finger movements.
Okay, so you want to promote that, right? So you need to start with the budget. Okay? So I assume you're done with the product development phase.
Yeah, prototype.
You're ready with the prototype, right? And you need to market this. So once you've actually identified your target market, right? Let's say it's the 4,000 students within RBC. Okay? So you've narrowed it down to say 4,000 students. So you basically first define scope as to where it needs to be publicized, right? Then you list down what are the various ways for marketing. Let's say online, offline, TV, radio, right? You try to find out based on the consumer behavior of your market.
Just an assumption is all.
Some assumption. Business is an assumption, but it has to be an educated guess, right? It has to be as close to the mean as possible, right? So you say you believe that since it's in an engineering college, and say 80% of the students are online, they have access to online things. So you that way divide your mix. Okay? Once you divide your mix, then maybe you can start making a budget as to how much so and so and so thing would cost you, and then go ahead with it. I think the goal is for you to ये सब plan है, ठीक है? You ask me a question, how much do I need to spend? Right? So what you are trying to tell me is मेरे पास 500 रुपए है, ठीक है? अब 500 रुपए में क्या क्या कर सकता हूँ? There are two ways, right? First is limited budget. You know how much you have. You want to do something in that, do it. Second is actually understanding your target market as something like this, okay? And you realize that you need to find out the trade-off between effective marketing and how efficient your marketing will be. If you actually go and talk to 4,000 people, right? That message needs to go to all 4,000 people, right? Now, how much percentage of that are you willing to trade off? I'm okay if it goes to 50% of the people. I'm okay if it goes to 70% of the people, right? Now, if you're okay to go to 50% of the people, you can choose, say, radio, and you get the cost for that. But if you want 80% of the people to know what it should be, then you clear-cut know that you have to use the TV, right? And this is going to cost me this much, and you should find ways to make that money, to actually procure that money to perform that, right? So that's promotion. Let's talk about proposed location, right? So, is your location important to your customers? That's a very important question that you need to answer for yourself. If customers come to your place of business, is it convenient? Do you have parking that is in interior space, not out of the way? Is it consistent with your image? Is it what your customers want and expect? Where is the competition located? Right? That's a very important thing. So we have this subject called supply chain management, right? In that, there's this really beautiful example. This is a straight line, right? There's a customer at A and there's a customer at B, right? So these guys are trying to decide where the location should be, right? Now, if A locates, what will the ideal situation be for these customers so that they get an even market share?
You are in 3 parts.
No, from a win-win situation, both A and B should benefit. In the middle, right? Should be right here. Okay? But a person who's located here will have to travel this much. Initially, he had to travel only this much, right? So it's your call. You need to decide which segment you're catering to, right? Whom you want to make things easier for. Now this guy, I think can do a very big thing. Even if he's located here, he's got people who are situated here coming here. And at the same time people here coming there, right? But a person, I mean, it's all about market share. How much of the market share you want to grab, okay? So a lot of decisions actually go into deciding a location. So I think these are one of the things that are important. So I think convenience is one factor. The second factor being market share, as to, you know, you locating somewhere, how would it, you know, make a change in your market, okay? And that's it. Now distribution channel, this is very important. How do you sell your products or services, right? So would you like to go for it retail, direct, wholesale, your own sales force, agents, independent representatives, bill contractors? So what does Dell do? Customized computers, right? You order your computer online with the kind of configuration you want, right? And they deliver the product directly from their factory to your place. Nothing in between, right? What does HP do?
Retail.
Retail locations. Retail locations. Okay? So these were their independent decisions. It worked out for both of them. So now what Dell started doing is, for a greater market share, it started doing both things. It's got its own retailers also, and it's doing the direct thing also. So you need to find out based on how much it actually costs you for the particular method that you're going for, right? You need to find out how much it costs and whichever is the best thing, right? So there are two things that distribution channels actually narrow down to. There's something called cost effectiveness, right? And the second thing is customer responsiveness. Responsiveness is the ease with which a customer will get the product. Cost effectiveness is the cost at which he gets the product, right? So if you have, say, more, right? There's more Reliance Fresh, all these things, right? The big houses, big bazaar. Now you have one location in, say, a 10 kilometer radius, right? Now people want to buy cheap products, they go there. And then you have this Suvarna Superstore and all these small retail stores, right? What they do is they make it easier for a person to get the product there. So it's that trade-off, right? So again and again, I try to make it an important point that market research and consumer behavior, that is the key. All these questions are directly related to the market, right? Sales forecast. Okay? So this is what I forecasted. Didn't work out. That's another thing. But projections are important, right? So I sell books, right? So I try to. This is projection for one semester, right? There's first semester, third semester, fifth semester, seventh semester students, right? So what I do is I make three forecasts. There's a pessimistic, a normal, and an optimistic, right? So let's say if you reach 25% sales of your target market, you should make this much revenue. Revenue is nothing but, say, the cost of this cluster is 20 rupees, right? And you sell it to 200 people. So what's your revenue?
4,000.
This duster costs 2 rupees and you sell it to 4 people. And zero really confuses things, right? So how much is your revenue? 8 rupees. Right? This duster costed you $1 to make, and you sell it to how much? 8 to 4 people, right? So how much profit you make? 4 rupees, right? Right? 25% people, if I sell it to these many, what will I make? If I sell it to 50%, how much will I make? If I sell it to 75%, how much will I make? Right? So these are sales forecasts. Operational plan. Production. How and where are your products and services produced? Explain your methods of production. Quality control, customer service, inventory control, product development. Right? Each of these is a bomb in itself, right? In IEM, we have subjects in each of these. There's product design, development, inventory control, is materials management, quality control, statistical quality control. So the idea is knowing just a little bit about each of these things, right? So if you're actually getting into manufacturing, these are things that you need to really pay attention to. Location is important. If you're a company that exports most of your products, where is a good location for you guys?
Seashore.
Yeah, sure.
Near the sea. Perfect. You're selling a good that, say, we're selling sweets, mithai, right? So, what would be a good location for you guys?
Heart of the city.
Heart of the city, near the consumer, not away from the consumer. So these are various location decisions, right? Legal environment. Okay, so it's important to know if what you're doing is not a crime. Alright, so when I started the book business, right, I did not pay any attention to this, and I participated in a competition, right, it was the GSEA. So I was asked there if my business is legal, and I said it's 100% legal. And one of the judges there said it's not legal, and I could not justify myself, and I lost it. Let me tell you, that business was very much legal, but since I did not do any of research on it, right, I kind of did lose out on it. Trademarks, copyrights, patents are important, right? All this is a little bit later, since you're starting off and not burden yourself. Personal is important. What does personal stand for? It's something like human resource management, right? It was initially called personal management. They decided not to call it that anymore. So how many employees do you need? Right? What are the skills you need? If you're making that suit cutting, right? So I think you need a very good back-end system that makes websites and all that, right? So you need to analyze skills. Okay, I need people who are good at website development. I need people who are good in delivery, right? Because you need to take the dresses, you need to give the dresses, right? So you need DHL for that. When you know that you want someone to make a website for you, you need a website developer for that, right? So you need to identify the skills that your business requires, right? Never compromise on skills. It is better to have a maid that does your household than you spending 4 hours on cleaning your dishes and all the other households and having no time for yourself. Trust me, it kills the business. If there are skills that your business requires and it comes at a price, be ready to pay that price, because if you do not, you will not be able to concentrate on your business. Okay? So, training is important, right? Pay structure is important. Let's talk about inventory. Okay? So, what kinds of inventory will you keep? Raw materials, supplies, finished goods, average value in stock, right? Let me give you a very crude example, right? So, at book on, I could not afford stock, right? I started out with no money, right? So, say I sell 50 books, right? And I make 2,000 bucks, okay? And I have 3 extra books or 4 extra books. Where's my money? All gone in those 4 books. That's dead stock, right? So I need to know if my inventory is expensive, right? And if my inventory is expensive, I need to keep it at a minimum, right? If my inventory is cheap, I can, manage. Keeping inventory costs money, right? I have no office space. If I would keep inventory, I'd need an office space costs, right? So, suppliers, if you find something, just list down these suppliers. Management, organization is important. You need to mention who you're. This is a really fun part. You need to call yourself CEO, CMO, CFO, right? So this. Finance, there's something called break-even analysis. I'll just tell you about this and then I'll wrap it up. So, Break-even analysis says it's this, something like this. Okay? There's a fixed cost.
Variable cost.
Right? This is your fixed cost. Okay. And basically, now let's say this is 2,000 bucks and this is 4,000 bucks, right? So you want to buy a suit, right? So your suit will cost you 4,000 bucks. That's the fixed cost. Okay? And say at each transaction you need to stitch a suit, patch it up, right? That costs you 50 bucks each time. Okay? So let's say that the entire thing you make 200 transactions, right? So how much does that become? 4,000 is the fixed part. You guys are following, right? 4,000 is the fixed part. To buy one suit, I need to pay him 4,000 bucks. Now after each transaction, I need to stitch because the guy, tears it up in some place. So I pay 50 bucks each time. Yeah. So 200 into 50. Right? This is my cost. Okay? Now, each time I rent it out, I charge them, say 500 bucks. Okay? So, how many times after, how many such transactions do I need to do so that this breaks even? The cost and the thing. So that gives you an idea. भाई इतना sales तो करना ही है. You get the point? So break even is really important, right? Because ठीक है यार अभी तो एक सूट की बात है, but you need an office space. You need an office space. You need staff. You need a lot of other things, right? They cost, and you need to know how much they cost, right? You need to know how much you're going to sell things at, and at what point of time will I get that money back. Right? That's very important. So I leave you with just 4 thoughts, right? Darwin said, share your idea. Now this is really important. You know who Darwin was?
Yeah, Charles Darwin.
What did he do?
Evolution.
Theory of evolution, right? Do you think, you know what he did before publishing his theory of evolution? He sent mails and letters to almost every bright mind out there, right? Without the fear of his idea being copied. He just sent it to everyone, right? And everyone responded. And that response actually made his idea a fine idea, right? Because when you share ideas, you incorporate others' views on your ideas, right? And your idea becomes better. So share your idea. No one's going to steal it. Because idea is, say, you know that 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, that holds good. Okay? Second is, Alexander have a cunning plan, right? If Alexander, say, was as sexy at sword fighting as he was a strategist, right? We know him for both things. So basically have a plan for everything. Galileo, trust your gut. You know what happened to that man?
और